Welcome! This is the Rustic Songbird podcast, and I'm your host, Lydia Walker. This show is for you if you're ready to learn more about the craft of songwriting and take your skills to the next level. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get started. My guest on the show today is Eleni Naomi. She is a great friend of mine, an amazing pianist, singer, songwriter. She leads worship at her church as well, and so it's so neat to have her on the show to share her story with you today. We're going to be talking about soul jazz. Her music is very soulful and really fun. You're going to enjoy this. You need to listen to Eleni's music if you haven't before. We're going to talk about it on the show today. So Eleni, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to be able to share your story with more people because I love your music and am a fan, and I love your heart for ministry as well and sharing your music with people just because it's your passion and it's very purposeful, and I love that about you. So I've got a few questions for you just about your story. First, I'd like to just introduce you to our listeners, and so tell us a little bit about how you got started in music, singing, songwriting, playing piano.
Okay.
When did it all begin?
Now, the singing portion started very young. I was about 4 years old when I first graced the stage. It was at we were on vacation with my family. My mom loves to tell the story. It was Hilton Head, and there was a outside gazebo, and a guy was playing guitar. And at some point in his set, he had a full band and everything. At some point in his set, he had the kids in the audience could come up and sing a song. And so I got up and did my turn, and I did You Are My Sunshine. That was my debut song. But they were kind of shocked that I could actually carry a tune, and they actually started playing along with me and stuff. So she always likes to say that was like my debut as an artist.
At 4 years old.
4 years old. So I've been singing for a really long time. I've only been a musician. Let's see, when did I start really playing? I started playing my stuff out on the keys in 2010 and only started a little bit before that in actually writing the music myself and all that. So that's been a different journey for me. I definitely think I've had an opportunity to grow a lot, but I still kind of feel like a singer at heart and a musician a little more reluctantly. But I wrote my first song when I was 14. It was not in the soul jazz style, but that was the first time I actually created something on my own at the keys. So that was kind of cool. And then, I had the typical kind of experience with music over the years. I was in school choir and the special school ensemble that we had, did musical theater, which I actually really miss. I miss playing a character and dressing up funny and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been in Nashville now 10 years. And like I said, I played out for my first time in the soul jazz style in 2010. And so I've just been doing live shows around town since then. And I've been fortunate enough to meet up with an upright bass player and a drummer. I think you probably know Jessa Schoen, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so she's another amazing artist based here in Nashville. Her dad is my upright bass player. And
how cool.
He made the mistake one time at one of the writers' rounds that we were doing together to mention that he played the upright bass. And I was like, no. And so since then, he's backed me up when it worked out. And Terry Hubbard is his friend who plays the drums. And so whenever we can, we get together and we play as a trio.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's so much fun to play with other musicians.
Oh my gosh. There's such another level of energy that it brings and confidence,
It adds so much. And you've been doing a lot of live shows too. And it's so different than recording, because with recording you can do it over and over, but with live it's a one take thing.
Right.
You just give it your all and hope for the best. And sometimes there's technical difficulties, and sometimes you forget the words or whatever, but the show must go on.
It's quite an adventure.
Live music is very different. Yeah. So tell me what the inspiration was behind soul jazz. How did you decide to stick with a jazz style?
So when I was in like my early college years, I was working with a guy. I used to live up in Ohio. That's actually where I'm originally from. And I worked with a guy on some music. He had a band and he saw some potential in me. And so I learned some of their material, and he was the first one to introduce me to jazz. The first song that I learned was Billie Holiday's God Bless the Child. And I just absolutely fell in love with the genre. There was something about it that was so like dreamy, I guess I would say. Like it kind of transports you when you listen. It's one of those things that can take you to just this whole other place. And so that's when I kind of fell in love with jazz. And since then, I really loved all of the different intricacies in vocal jazz singing and all of that. And so I finally got to a point where I wanted to create my own. And like I said, I wrote my first song when I was 14, so that was in a totally different style. And I kind of felt like, oh man, I really want to lean into this. And so I took some lessons, kind of like a crash course in jazz composing for about 6 months. I basically told that he was a good friend of mine, total genius on the keys, Dorian Wallace. And he taught me, I said, I just want to learn how to write and play jazz. And so he taught me the world of seventh chords and all that kind of stuff. And and so I just kind of leaned into that and grew as a musician as much as I could and started creating my own stuff. And that was the beginning of soul jazz.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the series that you've been doing. You call it Jazz It Up, and do the Jazz It Up covers where you'll take a song from a different genre, like a pop song, and really make it sound jazzy. So how does that work musically? What do you think in your head when you're like changing the music to fit more of a jazz style?
It's such a fun process. It just kind of depends on, whether it's upbeat, whether it's slow, what the time signature is, how I kind of work that out. But a lot of times, I guess the simple place to start is I just kind of put a little swing into the rhythm. So one of the first ones I did was Brave by Sarah Bareilles. I never say her name right. I'm so sorry. But so like, the standard version is like, say what you want to say and let the words fall out. So what I would do is start vocally and be like, okay, so how do we kind of swing this? And it's, let's see if I can do it on the fly. Say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. And so like, just kind of like, it's a really subtle difference. And then something that I always kind of helps it along is I'll try to find a running bass line, because that's a huge signature in jazz music, is like a fun walking bass. And so that's usually the second part that comes in. I'm like, okay, so what kind of, run can I put in there? And so, a lot of it is just stylistically and rhythmically kind of altering and shifting that. And it doesn't work for everything. I've definitely started some where I've like kind of abandoned ship. I'm like, this one's not going to work.
Yeah. And you never know until you try, but it does work. Like you said, just subtly changing a few things about it can really make it sound totally different.
Yeah. And my
heart go from like a straight rhythm into something that's more like a sway.
My heart is to like preserve the original feel of the song in some sense too. So sometimes when I get into the process, I kind of start to feel like I'm veering too far from the original intent. And so sometimes that's another challenge, but with all things music related, it's kind of trial and error. You work as far as you can, and sometimes it works out well, and other times you just kind of have to move on. So
yeah, I think that's a great use of creativity, because when you're taking a song that's already been written and adding to it or changing it, you're allowing your creativity to show through and kind of put your own spin on it, put your own style into it, but you don't have to rewrite the lyrics necessarily or even change the melody that much. So even small changes can make it sound different, or using a song that is familiar to lead into something else, like using a hymn or a nursery rhyme or a cliche, something that's familiar, and then just adding your own spin on it, I think lets us have that creativity without having to make up the whole thing ourselves. So.
And something that I really love about the process and why I kind of started to do it in the first place is, as you know, jazz is kind of one of those genres I think that easily gets forgotten. And, it kind of lives in the past. And so I really have a heart to see it brought forward into the current day. And so to be able to take a song that people recognize and to see them light up when they realize, oh, I know this song, but it has a whole different feel. And then they kind of get a feel for the jazz genre. So it also is another level of connecting with audiences and being able to bring them into what I've fallen in love with.
Yeah. Another cool thing that I noticed that you've been doing is Timeless Tuesdays, where you bring in one of those older jazz songs and do a cover of it, usually a cappella, I think.
Yeah.
You'll do a cappella and just share a video clip of that on your social media.
Yeah. So a while ago, I kind of felt like I wasn't very active on, my social media sites and all that. And the end goal I'm finding is always for me is to connect. I just want to connect with people. And so to kind of get in the discipline of interacting with people on social media more, I decided to do that weekly series. And I haven't actually done one for a while because I've been so busy, but I'm hoping to bring some of that back. But yeah, as I said, I'm a singer first. And so that's where I feel my most confident. So I thought, just set up a camera and share some songs that they've heard before and just really lean into the vocal. And so it's a really fun process. And
a cappella can be so powerful too.
Yeah. And a little behind the scenes tip, bathroom acoustics for the win.
Yeah, you've got that natural reverb. That's why people love singing in the shower.
Yep.
It makes you sound so good.
Yeah, exactly. So I always kind of doll it up a little bit. I have a background that I put up and some lighting, so you can't really tell in the video that I'm standing in front of my shower. But
that's awesome. I've known people that have recorded in their shower.
I believe it.
Doing vocals or even an instrument if you want that natural reverb. I've seen people set up mics and you never know that it's in the bathroom. So that's a pro tip for our listeners out there. If you haven't tried it, that's why everyone loves to sing in the shower, because they sound so good. And then if there's a way to capture that, then even better. You can share it with people without being weird. They don't have to know.
Exactly. I mean, I probably shouldn't have told you that, but
no, I think that's a trick of the trade. Now the secret's out.
For sure.
Well, tell me about new music that you're working on right now and anything that you've recently released.
Earlier this year, I did release a song for Mother's Day called Mommy. I am a grown woman and I still call her Mommy.
I do too.
And I love her.
My mom is in my phone as Mommy. I tell Siri, call Mommy.
Yep, same here. Yep. So I wrote that song a few years back, and it was actually a song that we started pre-production on in preparation for the Still I Wait project. But when we were kind of, hashing out what the vision for the songs was, it didn't really feel like it had a place in that collection. And so I've always wanted to kind of release it. And it was my Mother's Day present to my mom. So, so that's up on YouTube. And then otherwise I've been threatening to do some Christmas music. I don't know if that's going to happen this year because we're a little late in the game, but probably look out for that in 2019.
All right. So a little teaser for next year, an early start for next year. I love Christmas music, especially jazz Christmas music. You can't get any better than that.
It's so
for our listeners, you can check out Eleni's music on EleniNaomi.com. That's EleniNaomi, EleniNaomi.com. You can check her out on social media as well and watch her YouTube videos. There are a lot of covers that you've done, and some of your original music is out. So there's lots to listen to, and you'll really enjoy it. I think it'll put a smile on your face and make you tap your foot. And I would love for you to get connected with her to get any future updates as well. Eleni, before we go, do you have any final thoughts and encouragement for songwriters out there that are just getting started and wanting to improve their craft and process?
Yeah, I think that, there's a lot of different ways to approach songwriting. I tend to be in the camp that believes that releasing creativity is a really good thing. And so there's so many different ways that people tell you to structure a song, and this is what's marketable, and this is what's, I'd really encourage you at least to start in a place with that creativity where you just let thoughts run free and just let your personality flow into the writing, because there's a place for both. Structure is good and there is a certain system that works, but I think when we box that in too quickly, we have a really hard time actually expressing what's inside of us in a genuine way, and that actually comes through in the final product. Plus the fact that as artists we live to express, and so don't let wise counsel box you in too much in that process. Just give yourself ample time to sit down and let the creative juices flow. And I'd even encourage everyone every once in a while, just throw out the plan for the structure and just write. A couple of the songs that are on my recent project that are like everyone's favorites are songs that came out of that. I didn't sit down at the keys thinking, I'm going to write for this specific project or this specific thing. It was just something that in the moment needed to come out of me. And so I just kind of let it, for lack of a better way to put it, I let it come out. And those are the ones that people connect to the most. And I think it just comes down to, that need in every single one of us to communicate what's inside. So
that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing your story with us today. I love your music and can't wait to hear more of it. So keep creating that beautiful soul jazz. Thanks for sharing today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a fellow writer. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you in the next episode.